Putin controls a switch that powers ChatGPT and 27% of America's nuclear fuel. This video is sponsored by Uranium Royalty Corp, Nasdaq ticker UROY. Vladimir Putin has a potential off switch for the deployment of American AI, not through cyber warfare, not through sanctions, through something far more sinister. Right now, America buys 27% of its enriched uranium supply from Russia. And it's a full 50% in uranium when you include Russia, Kazakhstan, and Uzbekistan. One phone call from Moscow could cripple some of the nuclear plants feeding Silicon Valley's AI revolution. And Putin can potentially turn off the tap whenever he wants. Microsoft knows, Amazon knows. That could be a reason why they're spending billions of dollars to not just resurrect past producing nuclear plants like 3 Mile Island, but the vertical integration of the whole nuclear fuel sector. Here's America's Achilles heel. We're nuclear junkies in denial. 95%. That's how much uranium America imports, and it produces 677,000 pounds while consuming 45 million. Where does it come from? 22% comes from Kazakhstan, 12% from Russia, 10% from Uzbekistan, nations that are traditionally in Moscow's sphere of influence. For context, at peak Middle East dependence, America only imported 60% of its oil. We're 95% dependent on foreign uranium for new supply. But here's the real nightmare. Russia is the current source of 27% of our enriched uranium, the processed fuel that actually powers reactors. Russia controls 1/3 of global conversion capacity and half of all enrichment. In May 2024, Congress banned Russian uranium imports. The ban kicks in fully by 2028, unlocking $2.7 billion for domestic production. 3 years to rebuild an industry some would say the country let weaken over 4 decades. America needs a fuel line, and fast. Microsoft paid $1.6 billion to resurrect a dead nuclear plant. Training GPT-4 consumed 50 gigawatt hours of electricity, and the cost was over $100 million. The time, months of continuous processing on thousands of synchronized chips. Any power interruption corrupts the entire run. Months of work, hundreds of millions of dollars vaporized. Now multiply that problem. ChatGPT handles billions of prompts a day. The average query took about 0.34 watt hours, about what an oven would use in a little over 1 second. By 2028, individual AI training runs will require 1 gigawatt of continuous power. By 2030, that's 8 gigawatts. In normal terms, that's about 8 full nuclear reactors equivalent for a single AI model. This may be a reason why Microsoft is spending $1.6 billion to restart 3 Mile Island's 835 megawatt reactor, and why Amazon committed $500 million to X Energy for up to 5 gigawatts of nuclear capacity. Then you have Google signed its first nuclear deal with Kairos Power for 500 megawatts. For AI workloads that can't tolerate a millisecond of downtime, it's apparent that only nuclear works. America needs uranium, and one company is ready to oblige. Now this next section is high risk and disseminated on behalf of Uranium Royalty Corp, ticker symbol UROY on the Nasdaq. Uranium Royalty Corp owns over 2 million pounds of uranium inventory above ground and royalties on projects ranging from exploration to production. It has 25 interests in 22 uranium projects at various stages, including large producers such as McArthur River and Cigar Lake. These are projects globally in various stages of development, including 6 strategic US assets, from royalties on producing assets to a 10% gross royalty on New Mexico's Church Rock project. That's one of America's largest undeveloped deposits with 50.8 million pounds of uranium. For perspective, US production just increased from 50,000 to 677,000 pounds in a single year. That's a 13-fold increase. And this is just the start. Energy Secretary Wright asserted in a speech to the International Atomic Energy Agency in Vienna that the US Strategic Uranium Reserve needs to be continued and expanded. all because of America's dependence on foreign and even adversarial sources. Here's the inevitable conclusion. Data centers currently consume 3% of US electricity. By 2030, that's an expected 8% based on Goldman Sachs estimates. Most of that growth will largely come from AI. Between 5 and 6 US facilities now produce uranium. 4 more are on standby, and they could add 7.8 million pounds of capacity. Even at full capacity, we'd only meet approximately half our reactor needs. The infrastructure gaps are staggering. There is only one uranium conversion facility, Honeywell's Metropolis Works. It was built in the 1950s and running well over its historic capacity. And only one commercial enrichment facility, and that's Urenco USA. It's in New Mexico, but not sufficient to meet all US needs, especially in a hyper-growth phase. No US facility can produce HALEU, that's high-assay, low-enriched uranium, for next-generation reactors, though there is HALEU capacity under development in the USA. Russia is currently the world's only commercial supplier of it. Here's the dots you need to connect. In 1954, Lewis Strauss predicted nuclear energy would be too cheap to meter. He was wrong about the timeline, but he might be right about the destination. Because AI changes everything. When a single training run costs $500 million in electricity, nuclear economics flip. When national security depends on AI supremacy, and the power narrative turns to nuclear, uranium becomes desirable. Russia knows this. That's why they're squeezing supply. China knows this. They're locking up global uranium mines. And Silicon Valley knows this. They're moving to invest in reactors. Uranium Royalty Corp, ticker symbol UROY, doesn't need uranium to hit $100 a pound to soar. They just need production to scale, or projects they hold interest in to move towards production, or scale up meaningfully, which is happening right now. The Russian ban created a countdown clock. Tech giants created insatiable demand. We like Uranium Royalty Corp and are extremely biased.